Hello everyone, welcome to the first episode of Teaching Talks, the number one podcast if you want to know more about academic teaching in Groningen.
It's also the only podcast, by the way.
My name is Simon Fokkema and I'm today's host for this podcast. I'm working as a junior lecturer myself at the Faculty of Economics and Business within the University of Groningen. And I want to find out more about what academic teaching precisely entails. And what it means and how I can become an academic teacher if that's something for me. I'm not going to delve into this subject alone, but I've brought three experts on the panel who will also help me with answering some important questions around academic teaching, and I'm very pleased to introduce them to you. My first guest is Eveline Hage. Eveline, can you tell me something about yourself, and can you explain what sparked your interest for education?
Thanks. I'm an assistant professor in change management, and I teach in our master program change management, but also in the Dutch bachelor program. I enjoy that a lot, and what sparked my interest and enthusiasm for teaching is that it just gives a great kick to stand in front of a large audience and really communicate a complex topic in a simple as possible fashion. And that's really something that I enjoy a lot, and the interaction with very different types of people and learning from them.
Okay, yeah, you also sound very enthusiastic, so that's good. Let's introduce our second guest. Our second guest is Oskar Roemeling. Oskar, can you also tell me something about yourself, and can you explain what you like most about teaching?
My name is Oskar. I'm an assistant professor at the Department of Innovation Management and Strategy. I teach the bachelor courses for bedrijfskunde or business administration and in the master programs health and change management. And what I like best about teaching? That's a very difficult question. I'm not entirely sure if there is something that is really nice about teaching. That's obviously not true, otherwise I wouldn't be here. I think what I like best is the interaction with students and with my colleagues as well, truth be told. You're always thinking about new topics, you're hearing new things, you're hearing new ideas. I think that's my main interest in the teaching component.
Our third guest and our last guest is Eveline Croonen. Eveline, can you introduce yourself and can you elaborate on what defines you as a teacher?
Yes, my name is Eveline Croonen. I am an assistant professor in the field of small business and entrepreneurship. I have coordinated several courses, used to be a program coordinator for small business and entrepreneurship, the honors program also. And what defines me as a teacher? I think teaching students to think critically and systematically so that they can solve practitioner problems in the end. So that is what I really like, the interaction with practice.
Well, thanks for all your introductions. I'm really excited to have you on here. And let's just delve into the contents. What I did was I prepared three statements. And I'm curious to know what you think about it and how you think about it. So I can know more about what academic teaching exactly entails. So the first statement that I basically have and what I hear often is that students, and I also think, well, I may not be good enough to pursue a career in academic teaching. And well, for me personally, it took a little bit more effort. What do you think about that?
I would say, so I think that's a question I can answer quite comfortably in the sense that I'm an example of someone who did not always excel. And I was able to, well, I wouldn't call it a career, but I have a job in teaching at least. So I think that from that perspective, obviously it is nice if you have good grades and if those result from your hard work, then that's great. But I think that overall, the most important ingredient that you need to become an academic teacher, an academic in general, is this inbuilt or ingrained curiosity related to how the world functions, which continuously motivates you to try and identify how things work. And if that is in place, then you should go far, I think.
Okay. And what would a main advantage be of good grades, or does it not really bring an advantage in your work as a teacher?
Well, I guess if the good grades, assuming good grades are a reflection of your understanding of the content of what you're studying, then obviously it helps. So the easier it is for you to understand new things, then I would assume that your work or life in general is easier. But that being said, there will always be courses that are less interesting to you and topics that might not be, that you're not familiar with and that you're not interested with. And I think that in general, if you have an open mind, that is more important than having excellent grades all across the board. It helps, but I would argue it's not the only thing that matters.
Yeah, and I think especially for students, they're learning on many different levels, right? They're learning about economics and business, but they're also learning to be independent citizens in life. And
Members of a team.
Members of a team. And I think we also should allow them some time to learn, right? So what I often see is that students in the bachelor's do not excel yet, also because the topics are more generic. But then in a master program, they get more focused, they get a better understanding of purpose, of what they want to achieve with what they're learning. Sure. And then you see that their grades are also improving. So I think there should also be room for this learning curve, right? Yeah. And in addition, I think I hear you say a little bit that perhaps you also needed at times some extrinsic motivation to excel, right? And I think that's actually valuable because most of the people I know in education were very much intrinsically motivated, but to have that lived experience of what it means to be a student that is struggling with the content, trying to focus while there's so many different distractions, I think can also really help you as a teacher to take those students along, of which those types of students, I think we have a lot of those at our faculty, and they could benefit from teachers like yourself.
I agree.
Yeah, I think it really helps to know your students in that sense.
Yeah, not too much, obviously.
No, of course, there are limits.
Understand.
Okay, thanks for your answers. I think that clears things up very much. Well, a second thing that I hear often about academic teaching is that, well, basically what you're doing, and I don't know if that's true, please correct me if I'm wrong, but you're reading books, you're reading scientific articles, and the only time that you come out of your reading hole is when you go and teach. What do you think about that?
It's not accurate at all because we engage a lot with practitioners.
And you go outside?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, you don't? No, seriously, we engage a lot with practitioners, be it consultants or in my case, small business owners or entrepreneurs. We try to have students interact with them, and we do that in multiple ways. For example, I regularly organize college tours where we have a guest lecturer who comes and talks about his practice, or small business safaris that we recently organized where we do field trips to small businesses in the area, startup safaris where we visit startups in the area. So there are a lot of reasons to go outside and to engage with practitioners. So it's not that I never read a book. Of course, I do read a book. I do read articles. But I think about 50% of my activities involves engaging with practitioners. So it's not as boring as you think, Simon.
No, I agree. And I guess it goes for both of us, or for all of us really, that there's a lot of interaction with practitioners in the field. And that could be consultants or small business owners, people in government. I guess that's one of the nice parts of our work. We interact with everyone. So it doesn't really matter where you work or on what level you work. There's a good chance that we'll have meetings and talk with all kinds of people.
And I think that's also key for our students, right? To get them motivated, they have to see that what we teach them, even if it's this milestone older theory, is still relevant in practice today. So bringing in newspaper articles, showing that actually yesterday this was in the news, this phenomenon that we're talking about. I think that also really helped.
Okay, thanks. So overall, there's still more to the job than I was expecting before. That's good to know. Let's confront you with my last statement that I've prepared, and that's basically that when people talk about an academic career, they often talk about it in competitive terms. So it's very much a competition of who's the best, who has the most publications, that kind of stuff. And my question is, how is that in a teaching career path? Is that the same or is that different? And in what ways?
Yeah, to me, it's very, very different. I think the best example for me is when I was starting my teaching career, I got brilliant teaching evaluations, but at times I also struggled. And then I asked one of our senior colleagues, can you just join my lectures, join my work tutorials, and tell me what you see. And that was such a great experience because I got so much positive feedback and, really people helping to find my confidence and strength, but also things I could really benefit from and improve myself on. And I think to take on that role as a senior lecturer, I think you can make such an impact in other people's lives. So I think that's something I really would strive towards. And I think we offer, and that's also really valued. If you become an academic teacher, it's actually part of the evaluation criteria. And I think that's one of the best steps we could have made as a faculty. So, just bring juniors along in a teaching innovation grant you apply for, or encourage them to write their own grant, or asking them for input for developing your course, innovating in your course. For me, those have been experiences that were hugely valuable, and I learned a lot.
Yeah, I totally agree, because it really makes you think when you work with junior lecturers. It makes you think about what you do yourself and why you have done it like that for 20 years. And is this really the best way to do it? So you reflect more on your own teaching because of this.
Right. So I agree with my colleagues here. But and your question was, is there a competitive element? To a certain extent, there will always be a competitive element in any kind of job or career you choose. I would argue that for the teaching career, it is far less pronounced as comparable tracks that are available in other domains. So I think that if you thrive in a teamwork environment, then the teaching environment is an excellent place to start.
Thanks for your answers. I think what struck most with me from this podcast is that the teaching academic career path is actually much more accessible than I thought before. So what you stated about, that there's not so many competition going on, that you do not need to be excellent to join. I think that very struck with me. So it's very accessible, and even more accessible than I thought before.
Can I say one more thing,
Of course.
Simon, before we get the impression that it's just a track that's mediocre or something? You are excellent, but in different ways, right? You're motivating people, you're trying to engage with your students, you're trying to get them to learn, you're trying to transfer that knowledge to others. And if you succeed at that, that's the person we're looking for. And I know I've collaborated with you, Simon, in the past. I know that you are one of those people that has that talent.
Well, thanks, Eveline. Let's wrap up the podcast. I want to thank you for being here, and I want to thank the listener that they joined in. So thanks for listening, and I see you in the next episode. Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.